Welcome back, everybody. I buy lots of acting books because I truly love acting. It's not me just saying it for fun. I really do. And one of the books that I really enjoyed reading, and I posted about it. You've seen that on our social media, is the book The Resilient Actor. And now I have the distinct pleasure of speaking with somebody we are so aligned on that you're going to see us agreeing very frequently for the remainder of the show. Actress, writer, and coach, Debra Wanger.
Hi, it's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. I got your book, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months ago. I know it came out in August 2019, so it's coming up to a year. And I really enjoyed it because it's a very practical and needed approach for actors specifically, but it's not just for actors. It's for anybody who wants to have a life that is balanced, that is cohesive, and that allows them to be successful in whatever endeavor that they choose to partake. So I really applaud you for writing it. I know your second book is out, the follow-up. Do you want to show that to us?
Oh yeah, well I'm super excited. So yeah, I'm the Resilient Actor. It's been out for a year or so, but I just finished the second labor, the second child, which is let's see if I can get it all in this frame. The Resilient Actor's Workbook and Planner, which is follow-up exercises and well, we could talk about it, but it's but wait, there's more. This is the more.
Yes. And we're going to link both of them below the video. Please, please, please go check them out. I only encourage you to look at things that I truly believe in myself, and this is definitely one of them. So Debra, it's a real pleasure to have you on the show. And as I started reading it, as I started doing my research on you, I noticed one thing that I apparently forgot the first time that I was reading the book, which is you're from Chicago, and that's where I am right now. That's my hometown.
Chicagoland. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Where in Chicago did you grow up?
I grew up on the north side, go Cubbies. And then when I was school age, we moved out to Wilmette. We moved out to the north suburbs because they needed, there were three of us and three kids in private school was just not going to cut it. So we went out to the burbs. And I was
I know Wilmette very well. I studied there at ATC, which is a wonderful school. So Wilmette is, I'm north of that. I'm in Vernon Hills. So I'm about, half an hour, 40 minutes, depending on traffic from Wilmette.
Yeah, I was in spitting distance of Northwestern. I was right on the Evanston-Wilmette border. So
yeah, and I think I know that you went to Cincinnati for the conservatory program, but I remember seeing something about Northwestern on your profile. What ties do you have with Northwestern acting program?
When in high school, I was studying with a voice teacher who was in the opera department at Northwestern. So that was my connection. And I have a ton of friends who did the Cherubs program and then went to the undergraduate program there. So I just needed to get a little further away from home. I didn't want to run into my mom in the grocery store,
Yeah, well, Cincinnati is a nice distance and it's not too far and it's a beautiful place.
Yeah, and it's a very impressive program. So.
Yeah, of course. Back to Chicago for a second. I read again, in your profiles and research, I read the Cusacks and Jeremy Piven. Did you cross paths with them at all?
All the time. My older brother was in their cohort, so he's the same age as John and Jeremy and Joni. Yeah, they all used to do theater. So I grew up watching them do improv and story theater and in their acting classes. And as you can imagine, I was starstruck as a kid.
Yep.
And I guess everybody else is caught up now because they're huge stars and they're very successful. But I was exposed to them. And Jeremy Piven's parents ran a theater school for kids. And so I started taking classes there and that's where I really got the bug.
Wow. These are all of our Chicago idols. I love them. I love their movies. And there are still parts of their movies that are a part of our vernacular, and we use them all the time to the point where, God, this can take us on a somewhere, but Joni's line from is everybody gay? That line we still use to this day. It's so funny. I loved it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kevin Kline in that movie, and pretty much every movie I've ever seen him in is amazing. And okay, we'll circle back. All right,
Yeah,
so
I'm with you.
you got the acting bug. You went to Cincinnati. You studied in the conservatory program. You started working, and then you found yourself out of balance. You actually ended up leaving acting, even though you were successful at it in the theater, musical theater. You left acting to quote unquote find yourself and find your balance. What was the kind of straw that made you take that final step and saying, no, I really need to discover myself?
I think I was hitting a dead end. I found myself depressed,
Hmm.
overweight, socially isolated, broken out, not wanting to do anything but watch TV and eat,
Hmm.
very disconnected. And I, at the time, associated acting and my depression and my misery and all that. They were kind of all embroiled together. And I had the belief at the time that if I extracted myself as an actor and took that part away, that perhaps I could find some balance and um, find me. And I also wasn't really sure who I was if I wasn't an actor. That was
Yeah.
such a huge part of my identity and my what I felt like the only way that I brought value to the world. And
Mhm.
that if I wasn't acting, who cares? I wasn't good enough to just be me. So, right or wrong, I needed to step away from that and kind of shore everything else up and find the balance in just, who am I if I'm not an actor?
Mhm.
What does that mean if I take that label away? And I'm learning. It was a bumpy road, but I did learn a lot. So.
Yeah, and I think that detour took about 10 years for you to finally choose to return back to acting, if I'm correct.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I went back to school and I finished my undergraduate because I didn't finish the Cincinnati
Mhm.
program. I left and midway. So I finished my undergraduate degree. I got just a liberal arts degree in sociology. So I just did everything but acting and kind of realized, hey, I can handle this academic thing. I'm not so stupid or this. And then I went to LA thinking if I worked in Hollywood, that's a normal version of being creative. I don't know what
Mhm.
I was thinking, but I'm like, I can have a more normal life. There's absolutely nothing normal about Hollywood. Um, but so I did that. I arrived in LA and I got hired at a big talent agency and I worked there and kind of got shot out of that canon for several years. So,
Yeah. So what made you, and we'll come back to kind of your identity in a minute because it's a very important part to talk about. But what made you switch back into the acting mode?
well, after I got through the initial high of, wow, I'm working in Hollywood and I'm meeting movie stars and I'm getting all these great gifts and going to premieres and once the tinsel of Tinseltown kind of wore off, I
Yeah.
realized I was working just as hard,
Mhm.
but for something that wasn't as rewarding. I felt like I could have easily been selling rolls of toilet paper or canned soup. I was just happening to be selling actors. It was just as competitive, just as grueling, but it didn't satisfy my soul.
Yeah.
And so I thought, if I'm going to work this hard, I might as well put that energy into my original love, which what the thing that I wanted to do from when I was little. I either wanted to be an animal trainer, um, you know, in the circus or something, or an actor. And that's what I wanted. And that maybe what I had originally wanted, my dream as a kid wasn't wrong. I just had to um, find my strength and my resilience and my power as a person in addition to that.
Yeah. Um, it's interesting how you and I kind of came about the same answer in two different paths. You started as an actor and you had that opportunity to kind of go through it, only to discover that you're more than an actor in order to complete yourself and to become a whole person. Whereas I started thinking that I was going to be an actor, and I acted when I was a kid, and then we moved to the United States, and I had to get, kind of let that go, and I had to get a real job because, my parents in their 50s brought me here. They didn't bring me here so I can struggle. They brought me here so I could have a normal career and a stable life. So acting was not a part of that, and I couldn't let that go. And it took me years of struggling with my successes outside of it and not feeling whole. And I had to continue kind of finding myself and finding my fulfillment and finding my happiness. And that only happened when I admitted to myself that I am an actor. I'm going to continue doing this to whatever degree I can. So I am not only an actor, but that is my core, and everything around that is there to support it. So it's
Yes. Yes.
it's same or two sides of the same coin.
You can be an actor, but that's not all you are.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, and that technically brings us to the first part of your book, where you're saying to people you are not only an actor. And it's an important part for them to know, because if the only thing you know and your whole identity is that, and your successes and failures are defined by this incredibly unforgiving industry in which most of the answers are no, then you're in trouble.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's that whole don't put your eggs all in one basket. And not just, financially or with your livelihood, but emotionally. And, as I said, finding your value and finding dependence on other things, not just acting, because yes, there's going to be times where you're out of work. There's going to be times there's a global pandemic and all the theaters close and Hollywood shuts down. There's going to be times where, pardon me, that label is removed. And do you, what's left? And, do you have friends outside of acting that you can lean on when you're not in a show, you're not on a set, and you don't have those people around you? They're off on tour somewhere else. Do you still have stability? Do you still have a life without just being an actor? Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people unfortunately get into trouble where, there's so much ingrained into that. And if they don't have a job or they don't have friends in the industry, that's it. That's failure. And that's, what's the reason for living outside of that? And some of them unfortunately end up committing suicide and leaving this earth because of that, not recognizing that it's just them not being whole and in balance that you keep on referencing so often. It's sad. And another reason why I'm so happy that the book is out, so it can show people that's not the only thing to focus on. You have to be a complete person.
Yeah, thank you. And this is something I wish I had learned a long time ago, but we all have our road. But I've taught in the past. I've worked with a lot of educators. I'm in this, I'm going to universities, and talking to students. And this is something that was not traditionally taught. It's not taught in the conservatories. It's not taught in the BFA programs. Maybe now they're just starting to cover this, but how to have career longevity, how to be happy, how to surf the waves of unemployment and insecurity and rejection and all that self-care, and it hasn't traditionally been covered. And I think it's a huge necessity how to be happy and healthy and sane in a challenging profession to do that.
Yeah, and dealing with the family aspect. You're in a profession that requires travel at the drop of a hat. You're going to be portraying relationships on screen. You're going to be away. You're going to be here. How do you deal with all of that stuff, plus the uncertainty, plus the money aspect? All the things that my wife, I know, is really concerned with me being an actor, and I don't know how to answer those questions. So these are things that they should be teaching actors, or at least talking to them about. As a part of getting a fully formed individual out there ready to take on the world. I agree.
Yeah, if we had the answers to all those questions, let's just go make $1 million and be fine. But that's what we're trying to figure out, is helping people guide themselves and find those answers for themselves. How do you stay financially stable? How do you stay sane? How do you manage relationships? How do you keep your dog fed? All those things. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's kind of travel through your book and cover some aspects and dive into them. The next part that you talk about is auditioning is your job, which is thankfully the first thing that I learned when I started at ATC. As a matter of fact, that's one of the first things that they mentioned. Is auditioning is your job. It's not booking, it's auditioning, and that allowed the reference and the proper framing of it. So what has been your experience, and how did you come up with that for yourself?
Well, just in the same way we talked a moment ago about redefining what success is. So
Yeah.
success is not just I'm a working actor or I'm a working actor who's a series regular or whatever that definition is.
Mhm.
If you redefine what the job is, it helps a heck of a lot. I know
Yeah.
when I was in my lower points in the book, and that's the whole first chapter. If you want to hear how lousy my life was, that's the chapter. That's my vulnerable chapter one. But when I was really at my low, I found that I couldn't get myself psyched up to go to auditions, or I didn't feel like it, or I didn't feel good enough, or feel. And actors were so good with feelings, which is part of what makes us so good at our job. But that I had to say, okay, it's a job. It's not about whether you feel like it or not. And if you're an accountant, you don't go, do I feel like going in and balancing the books today? Do I feel like crunching the numbers? Doesn't matter if you feel like it or not. It's your job. They're paying you to do it. Go do it. So
Yeah.
it's the same way, like auditioning's the job. Put your boots on, put your big boy pants on and show up.
Yeah, and I know exactly what you mean, and not to kind of pinpoint that, but for the naysayers are going to respond with, well, the accountant is getting paid to go balance the books. You don't get paid for auditioning.
Yes.
Um,
And you
so
don't get paid if you don't audition either, because you can't, it's almost impossible to get the job without auditioning.
yeah, pretty much. And it's so what was refreshing for me to see is I'm lucky enough to speak to people who are who've had 40 years career in the entertainment industry as actors, and they have 137, 140 records, excuse me, 140 IMDb credits, and yet they still have to audition. Sometimes the phone rings, but most of the time they have to audition. So it doesn't matter, how well known you are, you're likely going to have to audition, and better get used to that part, and that's your job.
It's a very short list of people who aren't actively pursuing stuff. I mean, even Meryl Streep's still looking
Mhm.
for work. She might have a team of agents and managers who are combing through scripts for her, but she's
Yeah.
still taking meetings with directors. She's still hustling. Now it's at Meryl Streep level, but after enough Oscars, they cut you some slack. But
A bit.
everybody is still thinking about that next job, that next gig. So there's very few people who can just sit by the pool and wait for the offers to come in. It's a very short list.
It was refreshing again. I didn't have a chance to interview him yet, so Pierce Brosnan, if you're listening, please come on down.
Come on, Pierce.
But yeah, when I heard an interview with Pierce, and the first thing that he said on Mamma Mia, on the interview about Mamma Mia, is, well, it's great. I got a chance to be at a job. You don't know when you're going to get one of those. I'm like, you're Pierce Brosnan. Are you kidding me? And that's the reality. I don't think he's being facetious. I think that's how actors think.
Yeah, one of the revelations I had working in Hollywood was something that I didn't, you see a movie that's not that good and you're like, didn't they know that that movie sucked when they made it? A lot of times they
Yeah.
do know, but they've got alimony, they've got they've got two houses, they've got a publicist and an attorney and an agent. They got a lot of bills and they need to work. And so sometimes you do take stuff that's kind of crappy because you got to work, you got to eat, you still have bills.
And that's okay. And again, it's all part of that staying in balance that we talk about.
Right.
So let's dive in there. Let's talk about balance. Where I talk about alignment and the part where my heart kind of lights up when I hear you or I read in your book talking about how to build up your physical instrument. And the first three things or three main aspects that you bring up are, and then I'll chime in with why my heart is soaring.
Okay, so I to see exactly, but sleep,
Yep.
sleep is so important,
Yep.
and we devalue that in our culture. You know,
Yep.
whoever sleeps the least just wins, right? I mean, people boast about I can get by on 4 hours of sleep, or you know, but sleep is absolutely vital for humans to survive. Period.
Mhm.
End of story. That's so many processes happen in our sleep. Our brain cleans itself out. We grow, we regenerate, we synthesize all the things that happened. Sleep, 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 sleep.
Yep.
Nutrition. You know, we are what we eat, and for me, I definitely learned, and I see this with my clients, that when you put crappy food in, you feel crappy.
Yeah.
And you know, especially sugar and mega carbs um, just put you on the insulin roller coaster, the blood sugar roller coaster, and it's really hard to be a quality human being when you're not eating quality food.
Mhm.
And then I have to see which, I think, did I put water or exercise or exactly
Well,
what did I put?
water would be, yeah,
Was
water you put
probably,
under nutrition.
was
So
that my number,
drinking,
what exactly is my number three? But good quality water and enough of it.
yeah.
Not Coke, not coffee. I love my coffee, but water, 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 water. Our bodies are made of it. The planet's made of it. Good quality filtered. Um, that's water, 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 water.
Yeah. This is what people see me drinking all the time. So for those, if you're wondering that this is alcohol, no, it's just water.
I've got my hydrogen water right here. I'm going to open this up. This is
Nice. And the third one that you just mentioned is exercise. So
Mhm.
while you're drinking, I'm gonna jump in there. So the reason why my heart kind of jumped as soon as I saw that in your book is because in 2012, when I was stressed out and completely out of shape and just feeling unfulfilled and miserable, I took a break and I went on vacation with my family. And during vacation, something magical happened, which is the duh moment because you're on vacation, you feel good. But I started analyzing why is it that I feel so good when I'm on vacation, and then through natural, analytical skills that I thankfully have, I noticed that I was getting a ton more sleep. So I wrote that down. I said, okay, so sleep is one of those. I noticed that I was being far more active, and I was not sitting at my desk as I did before that. I was running around. I was playing with my kids. I was swimming. I was biking. I was playing tennis. I was a lot more active. So I wrote down activity. The third one for me was an interesting factor because it was eating. You hear that you're supposed to eat better, and if you eat better, you feel better. On a all-inclusive vacation, I ate like crap because you eat a lot more. You eat things that you're not supposed to be eating, and yet I still felt great. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. I need to investigate that. And then I kind of kept going through it. And when I came home, I set out to basically create something for myself as a guide, a mechanism that reminds me to do the things that make me feel good, not 2 weeks or 4 weeks out of the year when I'm on vacation, but 50 weeks out of the year or 52 weeks out of the year when I am not on vacation. And that became something that became my teaching, my coaching, my kind of book after that, or one of the books in the series that came out, and it became something that's called the Seamless Method. Seamless is an acronym for the 8 things that you're supposed to do. All the things we know we're supposed to do, but all the things we don't know how to do on a daily basis because we're too busy or don't care. So the S in Seamless, the first one, guess what that stands for?
Sleep.
Yep. Uh, E in Seamless stands for eating
Eating.
and drinking plenty of water. I didn't want to add an extra letter because I wanted it to be
Seam.
uh, A stands for activity. So your 3 things that you mentioned are my first 3 things in Seamless. And then the other ones deal with the other aspects that you also talk about, which we'll dive into. M stands for meditation. L stands for 3 types of love. That's the book that those who know me, that's the book that I deal with, the 3 types of love. I call it the new love triangle just because I think it's cute. It's loving yourself, loving others, and loving your day. So that became kind of the love triangle for me. So CML, E is for expansion and growth, and you talk a lot about that, keeping your brain healthy and continue to grow as an individual. And the last two S's deal with sunshine and fresh air. And the last one is stress reduction. So when I read your book, or when,
Yeah, you just found a better acronym. You found a good acronym for it. But that's absolutely, I agree. Ding, 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 ding. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I'm so happy that you're teaching this. I'm so happy that you have a book and you have another book that actually goes into the practical aspects of it. I'm so happy that you're applying all of these techniques from your experience into the art form that I love. And that's one of the other 20 reasons why I'm so excited to speak to you.
Oh, thank you. What you're saying is completely making my day because it's my mission. And the fact that it's resonating with you is making my week. I mean, that's why I'm doing this, is so people can learn from the mistakes that I made. And that it's not just these cliches of, yeah, I know we're supposed to eat well, and yeah, I know we're supposed to exercise. That I said, okay, I'm not coming from like I'm perfect and like I'm saying that you guys should do that and be perfect too. I'm saying I did everything wrong. I was a mess and a half. I was suicidal and fat and couldn't get myself to auditions and hated my life. But when I finally started eating well and moving and getting the sunlight and all the the seamless things that you just mentioned, which I love that. Then I started getting my act together, and then I was healthy enough and happy enough that I could start to be more creative and show up for auditions and get out of my own way and enjoy my life and be a more successful actor as well, and be a working actor.
Yeah, and well, we're about to kind of segment into the details of that, but what I really want people to understand is that the first thing that I heard when I came up with Seamless, and I'm sure you had the same thing when you came up with yours, is people were saying, yeah, it's nothing new. We know, we've heard about it. Yeah, it's not supposed to be new. It's supposed to work on a daily basis. It's the things we know we're supposed to do it, and here's the way to know how to do it. And for me, Seamless became my constant companion. So anytime I feel out of balance, I immediately go and I try to say, okay, am I doing all of these every day? I'm not. What do I need to add? It became such an easy thing to play with. Same thing for you, right? How do you get in shape? Acting is something that is tremendously taxing on the system in a physical way, in an emotional way, in an energetic way. It's very, very difficult to do and to continue doing for a long time. So in order to be resilient, you have to be able to do these things really on a daily basis. So please do it, people. Buy Debra's book. Start investigating in it, and buy the second one that has all the practical exercises in it, and start going after it, please. Okay.
Well, thank you. I think you're absolutely right. And one of the things that you figured out is that when you have a checklist of specific things, it's much more easy to get it from this amorphous, I know I'm supposed to take care of myself, which is just kind of this blah, big, general, but where do I start? So that you broke it down into habits and a checklist, and that's what works. And my big thing is goals and daily habits and practices and figuring out, okay, what are my goals? I want to lose weight. I want to be happy. I want to have 3 equity contracts, whatever it is. And then breaking that down into what are my daily actions that I will get the most bang for my buck. So it's not just I should eat better. Okay, what does that mean? That means I should have 6 glasses of water and carry my water bottle with me. Or it means I should, I'm going to eat 3 servings of vegetables at lunch, whatever. Really break it down to specific what works for you. And I go through that process a lot in the planner because I was finding like, okay, what does that mean? I know I should eat better. I know I should sleep better. I know I should, but I want to be specific. So when you can break it down into small, manageable habits, that, like you said, if you do a little bit every day, you'll really get some momentum. You'll really see a difference. You'll start to spiral upward and feel better. And all of these habits and practices kind of feed on each other. You eat better, then you have more energy to exercise, which allows you to get more sunlight, which more, then all of a sudden you're stacking these habits and feeling better. So I definitely go through the process in these books because I think it, there's a, where do I start? So let's break it down.
Yeah, it needs to be practical. So I'm very happy that that you have that second book follow up on it. All right. So let's really kind of dive into to the balance aspect of it. In order to be a resilient actor, as you put it, what are the important parts of it? I know we've mentioned kind of sleeping, eating, and exercising, but what else is important for people to be a resilient actor?
I think we haven't, I mean, you touched briefly on stress management.
Yeah.
There is, I'm a meditator. I was resistant to meditating for a really long time. So I thought, I can't do that. I can't do it right. I'm ADD. The big turning point for me with meditation was when it was explained to me that you cannot not think. You're gonna think. Your brain is gonna go. You can't stop your heart from beating. You can't stop thoughts from coming in your brain. That's what your brain does. You don't want it to stop having thoughts or else you're done. You're dead, right? So once I had permission that I wasn't trying to stop all thoughts and I wasn't a failure if I had thoughts, but you're just trying to slow them down. You're just trying to have little pauses in between the thoughts and practice those little pauses between the thoughts. I'm like, okay, so I don't suck at this. Like, it's a practice. You're learning how to do that. So once that was explained to me, I was less afraid of the mat. And so I do find that meditation is helpful. I like to try to do it in the morning, and then when I can in the afternoon, just take a little break. Sorry kids, mommy's checking out for a little bit. Or between shows, when if I've been a 2-show day, between shows is a great time. There have been dressing rooms where I've had my own little nest under the wig table or something, and take a meditation. But that helps recharge and deal with stress, and then have practice for when the stressful times come to be better at that. So stress relief, as well as exercise, therapy, tapping, like EFT, emotional freedom technique tapping is a great gift for that. Havening, warm baths. There's a ton of modalities for stress relief. Massage, touch, use them because they're very valuable. Finding predictability and making your own routines and patterns is lovely, because we are in a profession that frequently is unpredictable and changes day to day. And giving ourselves a little certainty and routine is really nice. Having a morning routine, an evening routine. And you can script those. You can decide, what habits do I need to do every day that I absolutely have to get in, and say, okay, the first hour of my day, I'm going to do 10 minutes of journaling, and then 5 minutes of meditation, and 3 minutes of sun salutations, whatever it is for you, and write your recipe for your own routine. Sorry, you got me going. Social support. Social support is a huge one. Calling friends, having friends to call you, having your knitting group, your yoga class, your walking group, your Zoom call, whatever it is. But finding your team, finding a team that's not just in the profession, because they understand you and they understand what you're going through and they have your hours. But it's nice to have people who don't care if you book the audition or not, and they don't care if you're on a series or if you can sing really high or whatever, whatever success actors, they love you for you. So those are some of the things. And mindset is a huge thing. And the caring for yourself, stuff. I could keep going. I don't want to do all 7 hours of the audiobook for you. You can get the audiobook for that. But you got me
and
going.
By the way, we'll link the audiobook as well. That's out, correct?
Yeah. I did it last summer, and it's out. It's on Audible. And in fact, I have a few copies. I know some people are having some financial hardships right now. If you email me through the website, through debrawanger.com, I have a few pro bono gratis copies of I have some promo codes to send out for some people who would, if anybody in your audience is interested in a free copy of the audiobook. That's my gift for
Yeah,
people who are having hard times right now.
that's very kind of you. Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
You do what you can.
Yeah. You mentioned EFT, on your bookshelf behind you and on my bookshelf to my left. I'm sure both of us have that book, the tapping.
Yeah. No, I love tapping. It's very helpful, and the tapping solution, emotional freedom technique, TFT, which is a slightly different version of, but it's amazing. For those of you who are not familiar, it's tapping on acupressure points to help move emotional stuck places. It's great for shifting beliefs and getting through stress. And yeah.
I love it. Okay, you've mentioned something that I think is really well, aside from everything being really important, you've mentioned something I want to talk about a little more. In terms of, I think it's probably a little more stress related, but it's cross to everything. You have things that are draining you, and then you have things that are charging you. And you've mentioned charging. I think that's how I kind of hung on to that. That was a really important realization for me, and that's why it's tough right now. But I stopped watching a lot of the news because I noticed that it was draining me. I'm an empath. I keep talking about it. People have heard me before, but for me, it's difficult because I pick up on everything, and I don't want to. There is so much negativity out there. I have to really kind of protect myself. Otherwise, I feel drained. So, what for the people who are not sure what drainers and chargers are, I want you to dive a little bit into that.
Well, I started with the metaphor of a battery. We all understand like having a cell phone battery or,
Yep.
And that you can charge your battery and then just use drains your battery. And
Mm-hmm.
like you said, watching the news is a drainer. And I also have chosen to stop watching the news.
Yep.
Once in a while, I'll check a headline or on Google or whatever. But that's so much negativity and the images that it puts in my head. It scares me. I'm perfectly capable of feeling lousy about the world on my own. I don't need other people to add to that. It's like putting, negative commercials in my brain. So I've stopped watching the news, but I've even realized that too much Facebook gets me to the same place.
Mm-hmm.
I love Facebook. I use it as a tool. It's great for promotion and connecting with people. But it also can wear me down. So I have to kind of put limits on my social media use because that can, or try to click on all the positive, happy things. So Facebook will show me more of that and less of the fear and anger and all that. But this is a great journaling exercise. There's exercises in the book for this as well. But to think about what makes you feel good and what makes you feel lousy. And some of these are obvious and some of them aren't as obvious. But if you realize, when I drink water or when I go on vacation or when I have a massage or when I do a yoga class or when I watch a movie that makes me laugh, those give me more energy. Those charge me up, or when I talk to Aunt Clara and she rags on me about, you didn't call me this week or whatever. It's like, that's a little bit more subtle, right? Like, I'm not saying that Aunt Clara is automatically bad, but to maybe say, I'm just going to limit my exposure to Aunt Clara a little bit because that's something that drains me a little bit. So there's people, there's activities. If I eat sugar, I feel that's a major drainer for me. When I talk to negative people, when I watch too much Netflix, again, that's a great tool, but it's a time suck, so things like that. So it's a great way to journal and start thinking about keeping a list. What drains me, what charges me, and then maybe what might drain me and what might charge me, even if I'm not sure. And then, can you do a little bit more of the charging stuff and doing a little less of the draining stuff? Like sunlight is you mentioned that's a great one. There's so, we're meant to be in the sun not 24/7, but we're meant to have sun on our skin without sunscreen for, for some of that time. And our bodies need it, and you just feel good. I even read a study recently that it might even help with fat loss if you're exposed to sunlight. I'm like, that's kind of cool.
Well, it makes sense. Again, it's vitamin D, and then it goes from there, and the body chemistry. So it makes sense to me.
Right, and there's optic sensors in our eyes that help with our circadian rhythm. There's so many, and there's a ton of stuff we don't even know of why it's good.
Yeah. So what's your favorite charger that is not in the traditional sense, like meditation or rest? What's your favorite that people will be like, okay, that's an interesting one. What's your favorite charger?
Snuggling with my dog.
Okay.
Snuggling
Yeah,
with my
that's
dog
great.
is a great charger. Yeah, I mean, and then I've been really being charged lately by jigsaw puzzles, because we're kind of, we're doing this interview still in COVID times. Hopefully soon by the time people are listening to this, it won't be, that'll be old news. We'll be looking at it like shoulder pads in the 90s. But, jigsaw puzzles and that feeling when you get a piece in and it clicks, Hugh Jackman was talking about that. I heard him on a podcast, and that's an amazing podcast he did. But he talks about that jigsaw puzzle thing. I'm like, yes, I have that. And that when you find the right piece for the right spot that you've been searching for a long time, it's very satisfying. So that's a little geeky, but that's snuggling my dog, hugs from my children, massages, Epsom salt baths. Now I'm getting a little bit more like, yeah, we know those, right? But having a great podcast, a conversation with a like-minded person, that's very satisfying.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And likewise for me. I found that my charger is watching musicals. So if I feel down, if I feel drained, I turn on a musical, and within 10, 15 minutes, I'm charged up again.
There you go. Is there a particular one that's your go-to?
It's more lighthearted ones. I'm not talking.
Not Sweeney Todd.
I'm not talking Les Mis. I'm talking more. I'm talking more. Singing in the Rain type of musical. So the older, lighter type of musicals. Those are the ones that just have a very different energy to them, and it's just all sunshine. And again, on an energetic level, it's very high level frequencies. These are the types of things that just charge me right up.
Yeah, I'm with y'all.
Very
Moses
cool.
supposes his toes are roses.
God. So that's I grew up in a way. I grew up on musicals. When I came to the United States, I was 14 years old, and my Americanization process was watching Major League on the plane. It was DuckTales, it was Cubs games, and musicals. That's my kind of American immersion. So what you see is why you're seeing.
I have the same disease. I actually got my master's degree in musical theater. So I am musical theater geek through and true. So no argument there.
Yep. We have, by the way, and you'll appreciate this from the North Side perspective, there are a lot of incredible theaters in Chicago, but we're a little far from downtown and we can't always make it out there. So we go to Lincolnshire Marriott Theater, which is a small, wonderful theater. Everybody can see everything, and you're almost at the stage level. So high level production quality there. That's where we go all the time.
Yeah, good memories. I also used to attend the North Light Theater frequently, and I remember they had a bunch of people who hadn't quite come up yet. John Mahoney was a regular there. Megan Mullally was a regular there. Like a bunch of people who, it was so that. Thank you, Mom, for that subscription. I got exposed to a lot of great theater there. Yeah.
Let's talk about your coaching, because as all of the actors know, we need to most often have a flexible day job, if you will, or have another method of supporting ourselves, because acting is a very weird industry. So for you do teaching and you do coaching. So let's talk about your coaching. It's another thing that we have in common, but I'll focus less on me and much more on you.
Well, since you're my long lost twin, apparently.
I think so.
I'll call mom and let her know. Um, my health journey, and kissing all the frogs to find a way to, lose the weight and feel better and all that. I stumbled on the work of Dave Asprey and the bulletproof guy, and he started a coaching program. I actually helped a friend of mine lose 80 pounds, just
Oh my goodness.
informally coaching this friend.
Good for
He
you.
wanted to know what I did, and I helped him with what I did. And he's like, "You're really good at this. You should be a coach." And I said, "Well, if Dave ever has a program, I'll be the first one to sign up." And Dave started a coaching program, and I was in the very first class of coaches.
Nice.
So I was in the first 50 people that he ever certified. And that was a deep dive into all the stuff we've been talking about, not specifically for actors, but nutrition, stress relief, supplementation, different kinds of tech biohacks, meditation, brain science, all of that. It was a really deep dive. It's like 10 months intensive learning. And then I got certified as a coach. And I decided to start with the community I know, which is actors, and start working with creatives. I will work with other people as well, but that's my experience, and that I understand that. So I started working with actors and creatives and theater students, helping them navigate the profession. And I primarily coach people on video, and I've been using Zoom for 5 years, so I'm right at home. And that led to the books and public speaking. I do work with some classes virtually as well. So I'm transitioning right now to help do Q&A sessions and stuff with universities, with theater educators who are looking for online content that I'm working with. I'll talk to their students and do workshops virtually now. But yeah, so I do one-on-one coaching, work with students, and that led to the books, and it's kind of all this gestalt of being an actor and trying to help actors not make the same mistakes that I did.
That's wonderful. Coach to coach, when you started out, one thing that I found extremely frustrating for a little bit was I'm used to giving advice. As people know me, I like to talk, and I really want to help people. And coaches are not that. Coach is not somebody who gives you advice. Coach is somebody who listens and asks questions. I found that very frustrating at the beginning. Did you have the same problem being my long lost twin?
What exactly do you mean by that? Now, can you elaborate on that? No. How do you feel about that?
Nice
Yeah.
redirect. It's called a
Yeah,
redirect.
I mean, there are definitely times where you want to just say, okay, just do this. Well,
Yep.
I'll save you money, I'll save you time. But I mean, we have that in all of our relationships. Like I talk to friends and you're just like, just break up with him already. But you can't say that, right? You have to let them have their process and whatever. So yes, I do find that frustrating. I will say I don't never give advice. If somebody really says, what should I do? What should I eat? What did you do? I will answer.
Yep.
So I'm not going to just ask questions, but yes, it's frustrating to let people have their process. But I think I went through the same thing as a parent too, and as a teacher, that people have to learn things for themselves in their own time, in their own way. And sometimes that's really fast. Sometimes it's one session and they get it. And sometimes it's hours. And you need to let them have their process. You can't say to your kid, just walk. They have to stumble and learn to walk and whatever. But yes, it is definitely it's a frustration that you can't just say whatever you want whenever you want and just tough it up and just do this. So and
Okay.
the answers for us are not always the answers for everybody else.
Of course.
And it's that whole internal external. If people come from the answers come from themselves, it's going to be much more authentic than somebody just telling them what to do. It doesn't always fit.
And they have to get it. Until you get it and until it makes sense to you, it doesn't matter. And when it's so interesting to me that when people look and say there are so many self-help books and they're all the same. No, they're not. And even if they were the same, it's up to the person reading that fifth one that they finally find something that get it now. Does it matter that other people are using different language? It doesn't, as long as that one works for that one person.
Right. It's
Everything
finding
else
the right key for the right lock. Yeah. Yeah. And it's just different ways of different people are going to speak to you. Like there's a lot of men out there. I'm not going to marry all of them. You know,
Mhm. Yeah.
that could get really confusing. All right. I mean, the different people will resonate, and same thing with writers, and a lot. You know, that there are only so many truths in the world, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and most things, most religions, most self-help, most it boils down to a lot of the same values and truths, right? Don't be a
Pretty much.
jerk, right? Take care
Yeah.
of yourself. Find a way to love yourself. You know,
Yeah.
show some respect once in a while. If you make a mess, clean it up, right? But different people are going to say it in a different way, or you're not ready to hear it the first seven times you read it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. The other
I
thing
do.
is I've had the habit of reading a book and saying, though, wow, that's great. I'm going to do that someday. And then putting it down
Mhm.
and never picking it up again, which is how the
Yeah.
workbook came about, is
Mhm.
because it's okay. Now we're going to do it. And I'm going to help you. And this is how I would answer the question. And now it's your chance. And like, let's spell it out and actually break it down to try to help you
Yeah.
actually do it.
My recommendation, by the way, if you want to do that as a next step, is to put together a course or to do some online things where you're guiding people through it. I did that with Seamless, and I took two or three groups with me through the whole process. And again, it's the way that I did it is, it's 8 habits, and it's one habit per week, and you're building as you're going up, because it takes at least 40 days for anything to become really second nature and to sink in. So doing that was really helpful, and then I really saw results because you're able to keep people accountable. You can measure things and you can get that done. So the book is awesome. I'm sure some people will do it, but if you put together a course or you put together a group, those are the things that'll help them stick it out for the proper duration of time.
That's a great idea. We should talk. We should talk more offline, because that is on my list of the next frontier of, is
Yeah.
helping, being able to get even more in depth and more individualized and answer questions, and
Mhm.
be one with the people, talk to the people, hear the
Talk to the
people
people.
sing.
Yep. All right. Few more things on acting and kind of getting back to that, and then I'll stop asking questions of my long lost twin. Um, in in terms of your really interesting acting career, just from the pure acting perspective, you've been on stage a lot. You've done a ton of productions, kind of all over the country. What from the acting methodology, what would you subscribe yourself to? What is your acting way that you found really works for you?
Hmm. I don't know if I have a formal school. I mostly do musicals. And
Right.
at this point, I have committed to just doing stuff locally because I've got kids, and it's
Yeah.
just too bananas to try to be gallivanting unless I can magically fit it into vacation schedules and all that. Or
Mhm.
there's a part for all of them. So I've been working in Southern California, which is
Yeah.
a vibrant community. So there's plenty to do, and I've been focusing on doing theater for the same reason that it's um, not, your agent calls you and says, "Can you be in LA in 2 hours?" It's like, no, I can't really. Um,
Yeah.
um, so I don't know if I have a distinct methodology. I think I, it's not like I'm method or I'm this or I'm that. It's in the script. The answers are in the script. The answers are in the lyrics. I think, you know, the I heard someone say that, the playwright is the creator, the actors and the director, they're the recreators, or they're storytellers, but they're not the creator. The creator is the playwright or the lyricist or the composer. They're the creators. So the answers are there. So it's in the script. And then it's, finding those places in myself, that the commonalities of, how would I react in that situation? How would I deal with that? How would I feel if that were me? And um, but yeah, asking a ton of questions and just go back to the script, go back to the script. A well-written script, it's all there. It's all there.
Yeah.
So.
Wonderful. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Next is from the acting perspective, and because you spent some time in LA, and I think you worked for CAA when you were there.
I did. I was there when Ovitz was there. It was a very exciting time.
Yeah. So what's things that you're allowed to mention? What's the weirdest thing that ever happened to you from your entire kind of wealth of acting knowledge?
As an actor,
I
or
won't
as
limit
it
you
working
that.
as in the agency. You wanted something weird?
Let's make that a two-parter. So the weirdest in the agency, and then the weirdest to you as an actress.
Okay. Gosh, as an actor, I've been on stage when cell phones have gone off. I've had people stop the show. I've had an earthquake. I've had a fire drill. That was fun. I was doing a matinee of Man of La Mancha. The fire alarm went off. The entire cast and audience all went into the parking lot because it turned out that there was, something tripped it. Everybody was fine, and they established there was no fire, and we all went back in and just resumed with the show. But it was like the fourth wall was toast because we'd all been standing around in the daylight in costume in the same parking lot. So that was a bit of a jarring one. I don't know if that's the weirdest thing, but and audience members who've had heart attacks and Oh, I was doing a show though. One of the cast members was an EMT, so that was helpful. So he went and helped the person. We've had stuff. Live theater, life happens. So, and I was once dive bombed by a bat doing theater. A bat flew on the stage. That's fun.
That's awesome.
Okay, weird stuff from celebrities. Well, I don't know if this is weird, but it's an embarrassing. You want to hear an embarrassing story about me and Sean Penn?
Absolutely.
Okay, so this was before everybody was texting constantly, and like anything you want to do, you can just text somebody. So somebody got on the phone. I don't remember who, some big deal producer wanted to talk to my boss, so I had to track him down, but he was in a meeting. So I'm pretty new at CAA. It's like the Guggenheim, like the old building, looked like a spaceship, very confusing, circular and multiple floors and whatever, and lots of, very streamlined, lots of doors. So I'm freaking out a little bit because this high power producer needs to talk to my boss right away. So there's, TikTok pressure. So I write it down on a note, and I'm looking for this conference room. So I go to this conference room. I think it's supposed to be conference room C. I think someone says he's in conference room C. So I open the door to what I think is conference room C, and there is Sean Penn and a couple agents in their suits, and they all look up and look at me like idiot. And then they go back to what they're doing, and I'm like, sorry, and I close the door. So I was like, okay, that was the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to me. I just totally made a fool of myself in front of Sean Penn. Yay. So then I'm like, but I still got to find my boss. So I'm running around trying to find it. And I'm asking everybody, where's conference room C? And they're like, it's this way and it's that door and go around this one through that kitchen. And so I'm going through, and then I finally find the door to what I think is conference room C. I open the door. It's the other door to the same conference room. And Sean Penn just looks up and busts out laughing. Thank God. I mean, he was lovely, but he just thought and they just laughed, and I just closed the door. I'm like, okay, now that is the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened. The first one was nothing. So I did eventually find him. I don't know where, but so Sean Penn, thank you for being patient with me that time. But what? So that was the time I am totally humiliated myself in front of the Sean Penn. So
wow, that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it.
yeah.
Last question. If you had a chance to give one piece of advice to a young acting version of yourself, what would that advice be?
Oh man, making me pick one is hard because that was a whole book for me.
Yep.
But I guess if I had to just boil it down and distill it into the one piece of advice is get yourself together. Find ways for you to be happy and resilient and balanced. And whatever help you need, There's absolutely no shame in it, but whether it's therapy or 12-step group or self-help books or tapping, whatever, there's so many resources now. But strengthen yourself as a human first, and then you'll have the strength and the grounding and the stability and the resilience to bring that to acting. That don't start at the acting and hope that will make you happy. Find your happy first and then go into acting. I would say that.
Perfect. I love that. Find your happy first. That, I think, will be the title of this segment.
Awesome.
So,
done. Cut and print.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Debra. Thank you. Whether you are my long lost twin or just a twin flame or whatever energetic equivalent we can put on it. Although I think twin flame has a different connotation, which is not where I was going with it.
That's a different kind of love triangle. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. It's really nice to speak to somebody who I am so aligned with on so many levels. It's really a pleasure.
Yes, it's a thrill to speak to a like-minded individual. So it was a pleasure. Thanks. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. And thank you for everybody for tuning in. Thanks for putting up with me and all of my stories. You know I'm not going to stop. Thank you for checking out all of Debra's information. I really do encourage you to look at the book and everything else. Thanks. Share, comment, tell me what you really think. Really appreciate it.